My mom's mom raised me. My mom's white, my dad's black. My father, his family, never in the picture. So I definitely missed out on, I think, having the support and exposure to like a strong black community.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of New York, season 14, episodes 4, 5, and 6. And yes, I want you to get comfortable because it is another triple recap. Now, before we get started, let me just quickly give you my assessment of who I'm feeling, who I'm still on the fence about, and who I'm disliking. First things first, Jenna Lyons has my heart. She's my favorite. I'm a full-blown stan. She can do no wrong. I really like Ubah a lot, but my thing with Ubah is I feel like I don't see her enough in the episodes because I felt like in the last episode, we only saw her in the first scene, and then that was pretty much it. Erin and Jessel, I like them, but they're both getting on my nerves. They're pretty much two sides of the same coin, and they don't even see it. That's why they don't get along, because they're too much alike. I think that Erin is one of those people where she is easily offended, and because of that, if you make the slightest comment, she's upset. And it's really grating on my nerves because everything cannot be that big of a deal. Jessel, you come across as aloof, a social climber. You're not painting yourself out to be in the best light. You also need to work on your delivery and your tone because they suck at times. Now, Sai and Brynn, I have quite a lot of thoughts about them. Sai, I really thought I was going to like you when the premiere episode came on, when I met you in person. But the way they're portraying you on this show, I'm just like, sis, you need an attitude adjustment. There's this very obnoxious quality about Sai, but I really thought that she'd be a bit more down to earth, especially when she shared with us about her upbringing, her childhood, how rough it was. I think that Sai can be incredibly rude and quite self-centered, and it's not a good look. And that stunt that you pulled in episode 6, I was just like, really, Sai? That's what we're doing now? I'm really on the fence about you. Now, Miss Brynn, I love the fact that you have shared your story. You bared your soul. Definitely giving us more insight to who you are as a person. And I love that you were very open. But with you, it's going to wear thin if you always have to be the center of attention. And it is apparent that it always has to be about you. Everything can't be the Brynn show. And people who always need constant attention, it always has to be all eyes on them. That gets exhausting. When you're really that girl, you know how to let other people have their moment. And it seems like you're always chasing to be the moment. And that gets old real quick. But y'all, without further ado, let's just jump right on into it because as you guys know, we don't have a minute to spare. Now, we open up episode 4 with the ladies still in the Hamptons. It's their last day, and I'm sure Erin could not wait for them to get the F out of her home because this whole girls' trip, in my opinion, has low-key been a flop. So anyhow, we see Erin, Brynn, and Sai in the kitchen, and Erin is excited because she's going to finally make them shakshuka for breakfast. Did I say that right? If I butchered it, let me know down below. I love eating other cultures' food, so I'm here for it. Now, Erin, my only suggestion, always have a variety of food because everybody does not have the same taste buds. So, in my opinion, I feel like you should have had some bagels and lox, a nice fruit platter, some muffins and croissants, along with the shakshuka. Just my personal opinion. Again, I just believe in having a variety. So that way, if somebody like Sai doesn't like the shakshuka, they could have something else and enjoy themselves. Now, again, Erin, you have a beautiful home. You and your husband have a good coin. But I'm going to need you to just make sure that you have more food the next time you host. But I also want to say that Sai was also getting on my nerves with the constant complaining. She's like, oh my gosh, I'm just so hungry. She's finally making the shakshuka, or how do you say it? Like, what the F do you call it? And it's like, girl, you don't have to be so ignorant. I feel like there's a lack of self-awareness with Sai, because I don't think that she realizes how rude she comes across. And I'm like, Sai, you keep throwing shade about her hosting skills, but you came to her house empty-handed with toilet paper and 8 garment bags. She might not be the best host, but you damn sure are not the best guest. Now, when Jenna comes down to join them, Jenna's already dressed, and Miss Mama's had on $500,000 worth of diamonds on her wrist. I said, girl, I know that's right.
Bling, bling, bling. Bitches is mad.
I am always here for a good flex. I love to see it. So they're all talking about, oh my gosh, Jenna, like, look at you. First thing in the morning, you have all these diamonds on. Like, I love her collection. And then you have Brynn talking about, oh, I mean, all those diamonds. That's a very interesting look for the Hamptons. And I said, now, Brynn, I know you aren't talking. You pulled up to the Hamptons with a big fur coat on. That's an interesting look for the Hamptons too, sis. It's only October. Now, I was thrown off by Brynn's comment because I'm thinking, well, first of all, you're around wealthy women, so I don't know why you're acting like this isn't a common thing to see somebody with a whole bunch of diamonds on. Honestly, Brynn, when you make comments like that, it gives a bit of jealousy. And I'm not trying to shade you, but that's what it gives. Because I didn't forget that comment that you made in last week's episode where you low-key shaded Erin's house, where you were like, oh, like, we're just off the beaten path, aren't we? I mean, Southampton is where it's at, but Sag Harbor is cute too. And it's just like, that didn't sit right with me because one, you guys know me and the Hamptons are like this, all right? Like, me and Sag Harbor, we go together. So when she tried to shade Sag Harbor, it's like, oh no, ma'am, like Sag Harbor is that girl, still that girl, been that girl. So don't try to act like one is better than the other. Ubah and Jessel come downstairs to join them for breakfast. They're all sitting at the table eating the shakshuka that Erin has made. And of course, Sai is not impressed at all. She's just like, no, I'm not loving this. Like, what is this? No. Again, Sai, you don't have to be rude about it. If you don't like the food, then politely put down your fork and knife and just sit there. No need to make a show about how much you don't like the food. And when Sai was making fun of Ubah for eating with the knife, I was just like, Sai, you don't know how they eat where Ubah's from. Because we know that Ubah's not from America. So how do you know that in her culture, that's the right way to eat? Like, again, I just feel like Sai has this mean girl energy, and I'm just not here for it. She always has something kind of nice, nasty to say, something real slick to say. I'm just not here for it. So now, Sai starts asking everybody about their Thanksgiving plans. Erin says that every year she hosts Thanksgiving, but this year her mother-in-law wants to host. So now, Brynn jumps in and says that she would love to have an overbearing mother-in-law because she has no family of her own. So we find out a little about Brynn. She grew up in Indiana and she was raised by her mom's mom because her parents weren't in the picture. And she goes on to say that for Thanksgiving this year, she's going to spend a week in London with her ex-fiance. Now, we all know that Brynn has been engaged, I think she said 3 times. And I think that this fiance is the most recent fiance. Now, it appeared to me that Erin loved this recent fiance. She was like, oh my gosh, he's just so adorable. He's so cute. I really love them together. Now, Brynn joking around saying that there's a 20% chance that they might get married. I was like, look, girl, there's obviously some feeling still there if you're going on a trip with him for a whole week during Thanksgiving. Me personally, I don't believe in having ties to an ex. Unless you guys share children together, I really don't see the need to still keep in touch and be friends with an ex. Like, I don't. No, thank you. I'm all for, thank you so much. It was nice. I wish you the best. shout out to everybody, I have fun, okay?
Oh! Shout out to everybody, I have fun. I gotta be good.
So breakfast is over, and now it's time for the ladies to head back to the city. Of course, Jessel's saying that she can't wait to get the F out of here because she had a miserable time. And I said, Jessel, you're the cause of the miserable time that you had. You complained the entire time. You complained about how cold it was, about how you couldn't connect to the Wi-Fi. Then you completely insulted Jenna about the gift that she bought you. So if you want to blame anybody for your lousy time, blame yourself. And if I were Erin, I probably would not invite you back. So now we jump to Brynn. Brynn is at the hair salon. She says that she goes to get her hair done every single week. I said, I know, that's right. So Brynn is talking to her hairstylist, and we find out right then and there that Brynn is biracial. Her mom is white, her dad is black, and because her parents weren't in the picture, her mom's mom raised them. So she was like, yeah, it was a bit rough. My white grandmother raising 3 biracial children, and she had no idea how to do her hair. So now Brynn shares that her grandmother's best friend was a black woman, and this woman worked at the same hospital that Brynn's grandmother worked at. Because I think she said that her grandma was a unit nurse. So Brynn says that her grandma's friend was like, hey girl, I know you don't know how to do their hair, but bring your grandkids with me. I'll take them to get their hair done at my hair salon. So she says that it was at the hair salon every Saturday where she learned about black culture. She saw the beauty of black women and blackness, and it was that exposure that was vital to her upbringing. Now, if you're a person of color, on some level, you can relate, especially if you grew up in a predominantly white community, if you went to a predominantly white school, if you work a job in corporate America and you're one of the only chocolate chips in the cookie, as my mom used to say, on some level, you can relate. And while that might seem like a small thing, that she was only at the black hair salon for a few hours every Saturday, I'm sure that did a lot for her self-esteem because she was around people that she could relate to, and she wasn't an other. She wasn't different. Whereas back at school, back in her family, you know, walking around town, I'm sure she felt like an outcast. But at that black hair salon every weekend, she could be herself. She probably felt good about herself. But yeah, I'm really glad that Brynn is being vulnerable and open. So now we get to know Ubah a bit more. She's at home and her friend Kathleen comes over. I think Ubah says that she and Kathleen met at a boxing match. But she says that her and Kathleen are super close, and she also considers Kathleen to be a mentor to her. So now they start talking about Ubah's hot sauce line. And earlier in the episode, Ubah brought up how she wanted all the women to try her hot sauce. It's called Ubah Hot. Now, I think that it is amazing that she owns a hot sauce line. I love spicy foods. I love a good sauce, especially a hot sauce.
I love it. I love it.
So I am here for it. And Miss Ubah, I definitely want to try out your hot sauces. But I thought it was really awesome to find out that her hot sauce was on Oprah's favorite things list. I said, baby, when Oprah gives you her stamp of approval, you already know that the price went up.
Price went up. Yesterday's price is not today's price.
But Kathleen is encouraging Ubah to get an investor, and Ubah's reluctant. And so Kathleen was like, girl, I don't understand. Why are you so hesitant? If you really want your hot sauce line to do something, you need to get an investor and get some money behind you. So now Ubah reveals that where she's from, they don't really do things like that. If somebody opens up a business, you have your father or one of your uncles, somebody in your family or in the community is going to pool their money together to help you out. So to get an outside source, she's not really comfortable with that. So Kathleen's like, I understand that, but you're living here in New York. Your family, They are thousands of miles away from you, sis, so you need to get an investor. So now Ubah starts crying and she admits that she feels stuck. She says that she used to always call her mom for everything. Whenever she needed advice, guidance, her mom was right there. We learned that Ubah's mom passed away, I think she said 11 years ago, and it's been hard. Now, Ubah, the way you have me sobbing at this part, you know I'm a crybaby. And also, as somebody who lost a parent, I lost my dad 2 years ago. So anytime I hear that somebody lost their parent, it's immediate waterworks. But I was glad that Ubah shared her story. I can completely understand how she feels. But I was just like, sis, I understand the sadness and the pain, but don't miss out on getting the bag. Get an investor to really blow you up. I mean, you're already on one of the hottest reality TV shows, a major platform. Do not fumble the bag. So listen to your friend Kathleen and go get you an investor to back you up and put even more money behind your brand. Whatever you do, Ubah, do not fumble the bag like Sheree Whitfield from Atlanta, all right? Now, I don't have too much to say about the scene with Sai at home, and she's talking to her husband, David, about how she wants to host a Friendsgiving in honor of Brynn, and she wants to call it Brynnsgiving. Not a whole lot happened. I did think it was funny that when she called up Brynn and they started talking about Jessel, and she was like, yeah, you know, we found out that Jessel's vagina is in a drought. And her husband checked her. He was just like, well, Sai, you need to have more compassion. The woman did push out 2 babies at the same time. I'm sure she's exhausted. And I just said, come through, David, with the emotional intelligence. I said, Sai, focus on your marriage and your sex life. I don't think that it's necessary that you need to keep harping on the fact that Jessel and her husband haven't had sex in 2 years. Also, Jessel, like I said before in the last recap, next time keep your mouth shut. This is why I'm a firm believer in pretty much moving in silence about everything. Because now you have this whole group clowning you about how you haven't had sex. Like, that's a mess. I would especially be quiet when things in your life are not going well. Because 9 times out of 10, when you're talking about your problems, a lot of your friends, they're actually happy that you're going through stuff. Like, don't get it twisted. You will be very surprised. Some of your best friends are low-key giggling and snickering and real happy at the fact that your life isn't going that well and you're really sad and depressed. Like, misery loves company. And the way Sai keeps joking on Jessel's lack of a sex life is very telling. And the fact that her husband has more emotional maturity to point out to his wife that it's really not that funny to joke on that, and just put yourself in her shoes. Again, I really want to like Sai, but she has some very obnoxious qualities. This scene with Jessel and her husband Pavid, it was a bit too long for me. I felt like it just went on and on and on. I said, okay, oh my gosh, how much longer are we going to talk about her sending the kids to daycare and wanting to send them to these top prestigious schools? Like, I'm really not that interested. It's very clear that Jessel is low-key a social climber and she wants to rub shoulders with influential people only. And I'm not mad at that at all. But at least don't be so obvious about it and don't say that out loud, girl. I mean, come on. When she said, I mean, you don't only send your kids to these schools for education, you send them there for the networking opportunities. And I'm like, girl, you're absolutely correct, but have the good sense not to say that out loud. Be a bit more subtle in your social climbing. That's all I'm saying. If you're gonna be a social climber, be a good one. And that's a whole separate video. One thing I cannot stand is a social climber, especially an obvious one. And I have stories for days. I could do an hour-long video on that alone. But again, we'll talk about that at another time. So now Jessel brings up the Hamptons. She's asking her husband if they want to rent a home or buy a home this year. So now Pavid makes a joke about the girls' trip that went all the way left. And she's like, oh no, we will not be creating that girls' trip from hell. Then she says that she was a sacrificial lamb. And I'm like, Jessel, do you remember what happened? Do you remember how you acted on the trip? You made a complete ass of yourself. The way you completely insulted the gift that Jenna bought you, you were walking up and down that house talking about how hideous the lingerie was. You would never be caught dead in it. It looked like a Christmas tree. How disgusted you were by it. Like, you brought the vibes down. So for you to say that you were the sacrificial lamb, and the only reason why they were getting on you so badly, because you refused to apologize for your antics. I love how her husband kept it honest. He said, babe, I have to be truthful, but your tone of voice can be very off-putting. You're not the most pleasant sometimes, and you need to work on it. So, of course, she's all defensive, talk about, oh, so you're saying that I'm a bitch? It's like, baby, you've got to stop being so defensive. He's telling you the truth. Jessel really has a hard time owning stuff. Jessel saying that she apologized profusely to Jenna. I said, but Jessel, you apologized to Jenna after the fact. When they were all saying you need to apologize to Jenna at that table, when you guys were out at brunch, and you refused, that was the time to say, I'm sorry. I made a complete jackass of myself. Please forgive me. That was rude of me. But for you to apologize a week later, it's just like, that's nice and all, but it's a bit too little too late. And for you to act like, well, next time Jenna needs to be more direct because she had Erin and Sai jump on me. It's like, but that's not what happened. Jenna wasn't being passive aggressive with you. She did say at the table that what you did was rude. Also, the only reason why Erin and Sai jumped in because they were also annoyed at how you were acting. And they called you out on it. Don't act like Jenna got them to attack you. That's not what happened. And whether or not Jenna is direct or indirect, the bottom line is what you did was rude. Period, point blank. And then Jessel telling Pavitt that their lack of a sex life got brought up too. And he's like, look, I call it the marriage and kids tax. It is what it is. Like, we're both exhausted. Now, I said, look, I don't have kids yet. I'm not married yet. But 2 years is a long time. I'd be a bit nervous. But in all seriousness though, Jessel, please learn how to keep your mouth shut, especially about your marital issues. Because the way the ladies won't stop teasing you about it, I'm just like, you should have never said a word. Now, we see a parallel scene with Jenna and Erin hanging out. They're talking about the Hamptons trip. And Jenna's like, look, when it comes to Jessel, I think that her real issue is that she tries way too hard. And I agree. I do think that there's this part of Jessel that just wants to be accepted and she wants to be a part of the in crowd. She's trying to come off a certain way and it's just not landing. It's making her look bitchy when she thinks that she looks cool. Does that make sense? And Erin thinks that Jessel was catered to all her life and that's why Jessel acts the way she does. And we saw how that whole pamper, catered to princess comment sent Jessel over the edge in episode 5. I just said, yeah, girl. Erin and Jessel, in my opinion, I don't think that it's in the cards for them to be friends. I think that they're too alike, and that's why they don't see eye to eye. But now we jump to the big night. It's the night of the Brynn's-giving at Sai's house, and all the ladies start arriving. Obviously, Brynn's there first. And Brynn, of course, right out the gate, she's already flirting with the chef that Sai has hired. So she's like, oh my gosh, hi, like, what are you making for dinner? Oh, really? Like, doing all that. And the minute that Sai was like, by the way, he's married, she was just like, oh, never mind, like, bye, I'm out.
Oh! Shout out to everybody. I had fun.
I gotta be good.
And one thing about it, I'm all for flirting. It's fun, it's cute. It's a good time, but I feel like Brynn is excessive about it. Like, it's to the point where somebody might feel uncomfortable. Like, sometimes it gives me she's trying too hard to be sexy, if that makes sense. And it's like, I think that Brynn is very charming and she does have sex appeal. So there's really no reason for you to try so hard. Like, let it flow naturally. When the other women started arriving, and she would greet them at the door, and she's like showcasing her dress and her back was out. And it's like, baby, let everybody get situated and settled in before you start showing us your outfit and the back. It's like, Brynn, every single moment can't be about you. I understand that the night is called Brynnsgiving, but give everybody a moment to get settled in. And I thought that Brynn's dress was gorgeous, by the way. I thought she looked great. I thought everybody looked great. Now, Jessel, the outfit that you showed up in, I don't know what that was. You were talking about you were giving Kim Kardashian. I was just like, no, I have never seen Kim Kardashian in that ensemble. Like, it wasn't giving that. And of course, every time Jessel's around, some drama is sure to follow, because the minute that she greets Erin, it's awkward. So she's like, hey, Erin, I'm so sorry to hear about your grandmother. So Erin's like, thank you, I appreciate that. It's really hard on our family. Even though she was 94, she was the matriarch of our family. So now Jessel says, well, again, I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad that everything went well. And now she walks away, and Erin's sitting there like, what the F just happened? Why would you say that? Like, who says I'm glad everything went well? So I'm thinking, Erin, in all seriousness, I need you to stop trying to pick a fight. I understand that you're hurt, you're sad about your grandmother, rightfully so. But in this instance, I really believe that Jessel just didn't know what to say. You have to remember, everybody's not good dealing with death and trying to comfort somebody in their time of need. People don't say the right things all the time. So give her the benefit of the doubt. I think that Jessel already knew that things are kind of tense between you guys. So she was just trying to be friendly and let you know that she was there for you. I don't think that she meant any harm when she said, well, I'm glad that everything went well. I think she just meant, well, I'm glad to hear that the service went smoothly. Like, it was just some small talk. Don't read too deeply into it. I'm really wearing thin of Erin's ability to find fault with every single thing that anybody says, especially when it comes to Jessel. So since Erin's already on a roll, she's like, and by the way, did you guys know that she called us cackling old hags? Who says that? So Ubah is like, she called us what? Now, I got my entire life, the way Ubah could not say the word cackling. It was such a Chanel Ayan moment. I was screaming. She was like, remember, English is not my first language, okay? Like, what's the word? Like, how do you say it? I said, once again, Erin, if being called a cackling old hag has you this bent, then maybe you're on the wrong show. Maybe reality TV is not for you, because this is light work. You would be hysterically crying if you were on any other franchise, because being called a cackling old hag, like, who cares? So now everybody's all seated for dinner, and we find out a lot more about Brynn's upbringing. So off rip, Erin is asking Brynn how she's feeling, and Brynn's like, this time of year sucks. Like, it really sucks that I don't have any family. Then she corrects herself and says, well, actually, I do have family, but they're pretty shitty. But we learned that Brynn's mom was a teenage mom, and her father was a lot older. So she says that her and her siblings only lived with their parents for the first 6 months of her life. And she goes on to say that it was really tough. They were extremely poor, and there was a lot of neglect and other stuff going on. And then she adds that at one point, there was some trouble with the law. And then when she said, well, it was mostly my dad, I really thought that it was a silly question for the producer to ask Brynn, why doesn't she want to talk about her upbringing? And when Brynn said it's hard to talk about because these are the two people who were supposed to love me and protect me, and they didn't do that. And that hurts. And I was just like, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that. So why would you even ask her that? I can imagine that anybody who's had a troubled upbringing or a chaotic childhood wouldn't be the most open in sharing what they've gone through. And I really felt bad for Brynn in that moment. She was really hurt having to relive what she's been through. And she had everybody at the table crying. We end the episode with her sharing that things got so bad that she hadn't been picked up in 6 days, and her diaper hadn't been changed. And now we go directly into episode 5 with the continuation of Brynn telling her story at the Brynn's-giving. So mind you, we learned that it was at this point where Brynn's grandmother adopted her and her siblings. Now I have to say, I am curious to find out if Brynn and her siblings are still close. Were they ever close? Like, I just really wonder if she still talks to them. Because the way she says that she has no family, I'm really curious, like, oh, do they talk? Are they still in Indiana? Like, I want to know that dynamic. And I wonder if we'd ever see her siblings on the show. So Brynn continues on by saying that things got so bad for her that she considered unaliving herself at a very young age. And she says that she wanted to sleep forever. Now, hearing that she felt that when she was little, that was very upsetting to hear. I felt so bad. And thank God she is still here with us today, but I couldn't imagine how alone she must have felt, how bad things had to have been for her to think those thoughts at such a young age. I don't know if it's just me, but anytime somebody gets really deep and they tell a personal story about a trauma that they face in their life, I always like to take the temperature and make sure that they feel comfortable talking about it, because I'm just somebody, I don't like to pry, and the way that Brynn really didn't want to talk about it and then she ended up sharing it, I kind of would have felt bad, like, oh my gosh, I hope she didn't feel like she was forced into sharing her story when she wasn't ready to share it. Brynn sharing that her dad signed all his rights away, but when she was a senior in high school, he reached out to her because he was in the ICU. I think she said that he had sclerosis of the liver, so he was pretty much about to pass on, and he wanted to make amends. So she goes on to say that she would visit him at the hospital, they would talk, and she forgave him. Now, one thing about me and forgiveness don't get along. I'm not a big believer in forgiveness. I know, I need to work on that, okay? Pray for me, please. But I just feel like, yeah, it's a no for me. And the fact that this man was a complete deadbeat and pretty much abandoned her and her siblings, but then he had the gall to contact her before he was about to go on. I don't know if I would have had that compassion to, one, even visit him, and then two, to hear him out and then accept his apology. I said, that's very big of Brynn. But again, it's also a testament to her strength. The fact that she would visit him and she talked to him and she found some closure and forgave him. That's some strength right there. That really is. So Brynn goes on to say that the reason why she's so happy, it's because she's known so much pain, so she decides to choose happiness. And I think that that is a great attitude to have, because it really is true that your happiness is your responsibility and nobody else or nothing else can make you happy. That's an inside job. The fact that she really has been able to be strong and prevail against all that she's been through, that's very telling. And look at her now. She's on national TV and she's thriving. I have to tip my hat off to her, because a lot of people would have definitely crumbled growing up in that environment, dealing with what she went through. So again, Brynn, thank you for sharing your story. I'm sure it's helped a lot of people. I definitely like learning more and more about you along with the other women, but I was really choked up hearing about what she went through. So now they change gears and Jessel invites them to a party that she's having for one of her friends who's a designer. She's like, the proceeds are going to go to a charity in India, and I would love for you guys to come. It's next Thursday. So Sai's like, well, I have an event before, but I'm going to try to come through and make it. Brynn says that she'll be there. And Jenna says that she has to double check because she might be double booked that night. So they're all trying to get in Jenna's business, like, oh, girl, what do you have going on? And I said, if she said that she's busy and might not be able to make it, then why do you think that you need to question her about it? Like, it's none of your business. Now at this point, they're all eating and the food looked fantastic. I think the chef made them some branzino. So now they're all like, oh girl, the food is amazing. This is so good. And Sai's like, well, thank you so much. That means a lot because I made sure that none of y'all could critique my food or say that I had bad toilet paper. Now, obviously, Sai is throwing some low-key shade at Erin because she feels like Erin's hosting skills in the Hamptons weren't up to par. So now Erin and Sai are going back and forth, making fun of each other. And now Erin says, well, look, it's better than being called a cackling old hag. So now Jessel's like, girl, it was just a joke. I didn't even mean it that way. Like, it was nothing. You're reading too deeply into it. So since Erin cannot let stuff go, she's like, well, no, that wasn't nice. And you say things without thinking about the repercussions. I said, look, Erin, I'm all for calling people out and getting them together. But in this case, I would have let this roll off my back. I would not have brought this up. It wasn't that deep. And you went on and on and on about it. I'm like, you cannot be this mad about being called a cackling old hag. It's dumb. That's not even good shade. That's real corny. Like, it's so corny, there's really no point in getting mad about it. But Erin would not let it go. So now Erin brings up how miserable Jessel seemed when they were in the Hamptons. And Jessel's like, look, I was having a nice time. I just seemed a bit off because I miss my kids. It's only been my second time away from them. I just wanted to be home with them. Like, that's it, that's all. And I said, we're on episode 5. Why are we still talking about the Hamptons trip? It's enough already. Like, give it a break. I said, oh my gosh, I thought I was bad, but Erin really cannot let things go. So Erin's like, well, Jessel, if that's the case, then why didn't you just say that? I was just like, oh my gosh, Erin, let it go. Now, I was kind of lost at this part. If you don't mind filling me in the comments, that would be great. Much appreciated. But I don't know how they got on the topic of Jessel working again, but somehow or another, Jessel brings up the fact that she's back to work. So Erin's like, oh, you're working now? Like, I had no idea. I thought that you had still taken time off to be with your kids. So Jessel feels insulted by that. And I was like, Lord have mercy. Somebody help me, please. This one is offended every time she says something. She's offended every time this one says something. Like, they don't see eye to eye. I was just like, Jessel, now you're overreacting because Erin was not trying to shade you about you going back to work. There was no shade in her voice. So I don't know why you're taking this the wrong way. And of course, this silly argument leads Brynn into making yet another dig at Jessel's lack of a sex life. She's like, Jessel, when's the last time you came? And Jessel's like, came where? And Brynn's like, exactly. I was just like, Jessel, I know you have to regret with every fiber of your being that you expose the fact that you have not had sex with your husband in 2 years. Because these ladies have not stopped clowning you about it since you told them. And you told them back in episode 2. And the way things went left again in the next scene when Erin and Jessel met up for coffee. I was just like, at this point, I need them both to come to the realization that it's just not in the cards for them to be friends. Like, they just don't see eye to eye. Their whole dynamic reminds me of Margaret and Jen Aiden because they have that same thing going on where they are always at each other's throats. So anyhow, they both sit down. The coffee shop, mind you, is in Tribeca, and we all know that Erin lives in Tribeca. So Erin's like, oh my gosh, I just love this coffee place. I'm here all the time. And Jessel's like, yeah, it's a really cute place, isn't it? And then she goes on to say that a few of her friends just moved to Tribeca and how Tribeca is an up-and-coming neighborhood. Now I said, Jessel, are you new here? And even Erin was like, excuse me, like, what did you say? And when Erin said, girl, Tribeca is already there. Like, she has been that girl for a long time. There is nothing up and coming about the most expensive neighborhood in the city. Like, you sound dumb. And the fact that Jessel was really trying to defend that dumbass statement was beyond me. I said, Jessel, you sound crazy, and I have secondhand embarrassment that you said that out loud and on national TV at that. Even people who aren't from New York know better than that. That's like saying that Beverly Hills is up and coming, or West Hollywood is up and coming, or the Hamptons is up and coming, or Buckhead in Atlanta is up and coming, or Highland Park in Dallas is up and coming. I just want to give you guys context for how silly Jessel sounded. So with Jessel saying that, I already knew that this coffee meetup wasn't going to go well. I said, yeah, it's going to be a wrap for Jessel because she's already starting off on the wrong foot. So Erin says, look, Jessel, at the end of the day, I want to like you, I want to be your friend, but you make me uncomfortable. I can't figure you out, I can't gauge your personality, and it's really weirding me out. So now Erin continues and she brings up the Hamptons yet again. I said, Erin, give it a rest, please. Please. We are so past that Hamptons trip, it's enough. So she goes on to say that the way Jessel was acting on the girls' trip, she feels like Jessel is used to being catered to pretty much like a princess. So of course Jessel takes offense to that and she's like, what an insult, because I worked hard to be where I am right now. I can't believe that you would say that about me. Now, Jessel, if I'm being honest, I honestly would not be upset at being called a princess. I'd be like, oh, thank you. Oh, you think that I was catered to? Oh, I love it. Like, yes. I would let that roll off my back. So things really go off the rails because Jessel accuses Erin of not being a supporter of women. And now Erin is pissed off at that. Pretty much nothing got resolved at this coffee meetup, so they both storm off, and Erin's like, this girl is an effing lunatic. I was like, why don't you guys both stop trying to force a friendship and just stick to being associates? Because this whole thing isn't working. I love the short scene with Jenna sorting through her clothes to sell them on Instagram. She has quite the collection. I loved how she was showing us what she wore when she met the Obamas and what she had on when she met Beyonce. I just said, honestly, Jenna, I don't know if I would be selling any of these pieces. They're too iconic, too many memories. But then again, if you're not going to ever wear them, if it's just a one and done, then there really is no point of all those clothes taking up closet space. So you might as well sell them and make a cute coin off of it. Now, when Erin, Sai, and Brynn met up, and Erin was telling them what happened with her and Jessel, she was like, y'all, we sit down, and already Jessel's effing up. She's talking about Tribeca is up and coming. They were like, what? Sai said, did she forget where she was or something? I said, I love how everybody is collectively alarmed at Jessel even saying such a thing, because that made no sense. And that would be like you saying that any exclusive neighborhood in any big city was up and coming. So Sai says that Jessel has a lot going on, but Jessel is somebody who does not take accountability for what she says. So now Sai wants to know if Erin's gonna go to her event. So Erin says, well, actually, I wasn't gonna go to her event, but the fact that she said that I don't support women, I'm just gonna go to spite her. Now me, I'm not going to your event if you and I are on the outs. So I would have said, I'm gonna pass on that because I wouldn't waste my precious time going to that event to prove a point to Jessel. That's just me though, but I said, Erin, if you feel so moved to go and prove a point, then have at it. Now we finally get to the night of Jessel's charity event, and her designer friend is there. Her purses are all laid out, and the purses look really pretty. So again, we find out that the proceeds are going to be going to a charity in India. She has top people in the fashion industry coming to her event, so she can't wait. Now, Jessel, I don't know why you were so mad at your husband when he was drinking the wine. You were like, can you not drink it like that? Why do you have to be so weird? I was like, he didn't even do anything. I was like, girl, you need some help. Like, you're just too tightly wound. But anyhow, we see Sai arrive first, And of course, her and Sai start talking about the whole thing that happened between her and Erin. So Sai's like, look, I heard that you got triggered when Erin said that you grew up pampered and you're a princess. And I agree with Sai. When Sai said, I don't know why you're so offended by that. If anything, it's a compliment that somebody thinks that you grew up with money and all this status. So I don't know why you're so bent out of shape about it. If I were you, I would be like, yes, like I'm here for it. And I agree too. And now we see Ubah and Brynn arrive. Now mind you, Erin's still not there and Jenna's not there because she's decorating her Christmas tree with her son and her goddaughter. Now, at one point we see Sai asking where Jenna's at, and now they FaceTime Jenna and they see Jenna decorating her Christmas tree. So you have Brynn talking about, oh, she couldn't just say that? Like, why did she have to lie? And I'm thinking, Brynn, why do you care so much? It's not your event. Jenna was honest when she said that she had other things to do. It wasn't like she lied to anybody or led anybody on. She literally said, I have to double check and see what I have going on that night because I might not be able to make it. At this point, Erin shows up. Her and Jessel make up. I said, thank you, Jesus, because I could not go another episode with them carrying on like this. And the drama really isn't that deep for them to have all this hate for each other. So that's what makes it even more exhausting. Now, Miss Jessel, you might put your foot in your mouth, but one thing about you, you are extremely well connected in the industry because you had all the top people tipping through at your party. You had the editor-in-chief at Paper Magazine, but when Lynn Yeager from Vogue pulled up, I said, now that is iconic. You had Brynn freaking out in her seat. She was like, oh my gosh, this is so iconic. This is almost like if Andre Leon Talley walked in your party. Like, Jessel is connected. Jessel, you did that. But Miss Mamas, I'm gonna need you to make sure that you have top shelf wine at your parties because you have Vogue editors at your event, but you have $2 wine to serve your guests. I said, come on, sis. You got a bit too much money and a bit too much status to be out here serving rancid wine, in the words of Erin. Because Erin was like, oh, what is this? This is horrible. So we end the episode with Erin inviting all the ladies to her anniversary party. She's going to be celebrating 10 years of marriage to her husband, Abe, and she wants them all to be there. And of course, you have Sai being shady saying, is there going to be food at this event? I said, Sai, girl, before you get to Erin's party, make sure to eat beforehand so that way, whether there's food or not, you'll be good. And then we see Brynn still harping on the fact that Jenna pretty much lied because why is she at home decorating her Christmas tree with her kid versus being at Jessel's party? I said again, Brynn, Jenna is a grown-ass woman. She does not owe you an explanation. And it's not like this is your event. So I don't know why you're getting so bent out of shape at the fact that Jenna's not there. And every time Brynn says, I could never get away with this. I mean, Jenna gets away with everything. Girl, it's not the fact that Jenna gets away with things. It's just the fact that she's upfront about stuff, whereas you're not. Because you still want to play the victim about dipping out on Erin and going to catch. But it's like, you lied. You said that you were tired and not feeling well, and then all of a sudden Erin goes on Instagram and she sees you out and about with Sai at Casa Cipriani. So again, stop trying to act like, well, I can't get away with anything. If this were me, she'd have my head, but Jenna gets away with everything. It's like, girl, just stop. And stop comparing yourself to Jenna. Like, it's annoying. Now, the way episode 6 opened up, I was here for all of it. I love jewelry. So I absolutely loved seeing Ubah and Erin at Jacob the Jeweler. I was just in all of my glory, okay? I loved every single piece that Erin was trying on. She tried on this diamond mesh glove. Then she tried on these gorgeous earrings that were like, I think $250,000. The mesh glove, I think, was $600,000. Just stunning. I have such an addiction to shopping, so I don't know if I would be able to be okay with just wearing one of his pieces for just a night. I would be in there like, you know what? I have to buy something. The American Express would have been out, all right? And then I would have just had to pray and pray and pray and pray until I couldn't pray anymore about how it was going to get paid by the end of the month. And can we talk about Ubah's outfit in this scene too? That outfit was everything. I was like, girl, where are you going? You have a date after this? She looks so good. So anyhow, we find out that Ubah and Jacob the jeweler have been great friends. They met a few years ago when they were in Monaco. And so ever since then, he hooks her up with some pieces when she has to go out, and they have maintained their friendship. I said, again, Ubah, these are the right friendships to have. So now we see a parallel scene with Brynn and Jessel shopping, and they're looking for gowns for Erin's anniversary party. And the gowns that Brynn was trying on, she looked amazing. Like, she looked really good. So Brynn brings up the fact that she was engaged 3 times. She says that she said yes to every single proposal, but she realized that she just wasn't ready. And now she says that she is ready to settle down and have children, and she wants to be married and old. Now, I'll never understand why people equate marriage to being old and settled and boring. Like, I don't know why you can't still be vibrant and sexy and still have fun just because you're married. Like, marriage doesn't mean that you're supposed to have a boring life or that you can't have fun anymore. You're just committed to one person. But I don't understand why people act like because you're married, now you have to be this like boring and settled, homely person. I don't get it. And I said other people can subscribe to that mindset, but not me. Because if and when the day comes, I plan on still being the same amazing person. Like, I cannot see myself just being all boring and dry just because I'm married. I don't know. I think that a lot of people have the wrong mindset when it comes to marriage. And I think that if people's mindsets shifted, maybe we would see a collective of happier couples and marriages. But you know what? Who am I? I'm just one person with a difference of opinion. But I digress. So now we see Jessel and Brynn pretty much making fun of Erin's invitation. Jessel's like, did you read the bottom of her invitation closely? She has a whole list of sponsors. So Brynn's like, what? Like, are we going to a wedding anniversary or are we going to Coachella? And I was just kind of like, the shade of it all. And I saw on Instagram, Erin explained the whole thing. She was like, no, they weren't sponsors. I just wanted to say a thank you to all the brands who don't really get that much love. I wanted to shout them out so that they could get some free promo. And of course, Brynn brings up Jessel and Erin's beef. Brynn pretty much tells Jessel that she needs to apologize. Jessel's like, I've been apologizing. At this point, it's going to be an apology tour because I've said sorry like a million times. Now, Jessel does point out the fact that Erin is the one who's gotten into it with pretty much everybody in this group. So Brynn agrees, and she says that obviously Erin's the common denominator in all the issues. Now, I do remember in episode 1, Sai did hint to the fact that Erin is usually at the center of fallouts when it comes to her friends, and how she's always mad at somebody. Honestly and truthfully, I just feel like they're just not meant to be friends. I think that their personalities are just way too similar because they both get so easily offended anytime the other one says anything. And it's a bit difficult to have a friendship with somebody when you guys are always butting heads about everything. Now, this next scene with Erin and her husband on a date night, I thought it was so cute. Especially at the end, I was just like, listen, does Abe have a brother, a cousin, a nephew? Like, please, like, let me know. So Erin's complaining about how she doesn't like going past Canal Street. She loves staying downtown. Now, child, if you live in New York, that is very common for people who live uptown to hate coming downtown. The people downtown hate coming uptown. They barely want to go to Midtown. So it's definitely a thing where people are like, oh, I mean, me, I don't care. But the reason why Erin was complaining, because the restaurant that they were at, I think it was the steakhouse they went to on their first day, but either way, the restaurant is on the Upper East Side. So that's why Erin was complaining about the fact that she hates going past Canal Street. So they're both discussing the anniversary party. They're nervous about reciting their vows. We find out that when they got married 10 years ago, neither one of them exchanged vows. And Erin goes on to say that when they first met, there was this connection between them. And I have to say, there is definitely that chemistry still there. I love seeing that. And you can tell that they're happily married. It's refreshing to see a couple that actually enjoys each other's company, still attracted to each other, still have a good time. Like, I love it. Now, when Abe surprised Erin with a brand new wedding ring, I mean, that ring was gorgeous. I was speechless. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, girl, if you don't put that ring on, because Erin was like, wait, what? Are you serious right now? Is this real? Like, is this for me? Like, what? I said, girl, stop it. I said, again, Erin, you are very blessed, okay? Abe is handsome. He seems really nice. Money. Family oriented. 4 out of 4, girl. I said, I know that's right. Now, this next scene, we can just skip right over it. I'm just not that interested in Jessel's storyline about where to send her kids to daycare. It's obvious that she wants to send her kids to the absolute best school. It's really obvious that she only wants to be surrounded by extremely wealthy people. And listen, sis, I'm not mad at you, but just don't be so obvious with the social climbing. And when you were like, oh my gosh, Tom Cruise sent his kid there, and so sent their kid there. And I'm thinking, do you care more about the status and who's going, or do you care about the actual education of your child? Like, please let us know. Also, you keep saying how cheap Pavitt is because he doesn't want to spend the money. And I'm thinking, Jessel, your husband wants to make sure that you guys don't go into debt over daycare. Because let's be clear, the top schools in the city rival the tuition of an Ivy League school. So you need to make sure that you have that tuition ready, sis, for both kids, okay? And if your husband is low-key trying to let you know, like, hey, babe, we might be doing well, but we're not doing that well to send both of these kids to this kind of school. We're at 62 grand a year. I think that you might need to slow down and just listen. Stop being so caught up in appearances if the money might be really tight after you just spent everything that you have on tuition. So now we see Sai at home, and she's talking to her husband David about all the drama that's going on with the ladies. And her husband brings up the fact that Sai is not the most empathetic, she's not the best listener, and she cops to it. She's like, because of her upbringing, she is tough on people, she doesn't coddle people. And I'm thinking, okay, if that's who you are, then why are you so pressed when you feel like other people in this group don't share things with you? Because you've already admitted that you aren't the best listener and you really don't have patience or time to hear people's problems, but yet you want everybody else to share what they're going through? Because you did it with Jenna. You were upset that Jenna wouldn't share details about her romantic life. But it's like, why do you care so much? If you're the type to be dismissive and you don't want to be a listening ear, then why do you care? I get the impression that Sai is extremely self-centered. I think that she's another person where it always has to be about her. And when the focus is on somebody else, she really doesn't care. It's like her ears shut off, her brain shuts down, and she just doesn't even care because it's not about her. And then Sai's telling her husband about Abe and Erin's anniversary party, and she's like, by the way, you have to wear a suit. So he's like, I can't just wear this. He was wearing some sweats, and I was like, David, don't tell me you're that guy who doesn't like getting dressed up. That is such a pet peeve of mine. Men who don't enjoy getting dressed up. I don't want to see you in sweats 24/7. Like, that's gonna bother me. So now it's the night of Erin and Abe's anniversary party. We see Jessel and Pavitt getting ready, and now we see Ubah FaceTime Erin and Abe. And we find out that Ubah will not be at the party because she tested positive for COVID. If I were Ubah, I'd be so pissed because I'm sure that Ubah picked out diamonds too. So now she can't wear her jewelry for the night because now she's sick. Like, that would suck. Now, when Erin and Abe got to the venue for their party, the venue was gorgeous. They had it in a bank vault. Their party reminded me of Dr. Nicole and Anthony's engagement party from Miami. Their engagement party was inside of a bank vault too, and it was stunning. I thought that Erin's gown was gorgeous, very sexy, just chef's kiss. I said, Erin, you did that. You know who Erin low-key reminds me of? Jennifer Aniston. Like, they both favor. And Brynn favors Mandy Moore, right? You see it. They look just alike. So we see everybody arriving. Jessel and Pavitt are there. They're mingling. They're talking to Erin's dad. I think that Erin's dad is so cute. He seems like so much fun, just so nice. And I love his energy. And it was so cute when he was talking to Jessel and Pavitt. He was like, oh, so do you guys have kids? How many? They were like, oh, we have twins. So Pavitt's like, we're not having any more, like 2, and we're done. Like, that's it. So Jessel says that she wants more kids. They have 7 embryos, and she wants her baby girl. And I really get it because I would still want my little girl too, especially if I had 2 boys. Jenna Lyons came strolling in. I love the outfit. I think that Jenna is just so effortless. And I told y'all, the camera does not do Jenna justice. I swear to y'all, and you guys know I do not just say that. In person, Jenna's face card, y'all, beautiful. Like, she looks so good. I'm so serious, y'all. That is someone who is like the epitome of just a cool person. Now, when Jenna pulled up behind Erin and she started squeezing her butt, and you saw Erin's dad watching, like, what the hell? He was looking like, what's going on? Who is this crazy woman touching my daughter's butt? So Brynn's there. She's wearing this fur coat and sunglasses. And I'm thinking, girl, why do you have sunglasses on? It is 9 o'clock at night. Like, why are you doing this? Again, it just felt very much you want the attention. Like, any way to bring the attention on you. And of course, we see Brynn and Jessel talking, and they're both making fun of the party. Brynn's like, I'm bored. This party's not fun at all. I mean, yes, a bunch of hot guys, but that's about it. Nothing's happening. This party's a cross between a Bank of America holiday party and a bar mitzvah. And it's just like, Brynn, you have a lot to say about everybody's events, people's homes, the jewelry that they sport. And I just feel like if you're so bored, why don't you mix and mingle with some of the people? And the way that you're always flirting and stuff like that, I'm surprised that you weren't in somebody's face striking up a conversation. I love the SLC crossover. We saw Miss Meredith Marks show up, and her son Brooks was there too. Now, I said that's really cool that Erin and Meredith are good friends. I'm actually low-key somewhat excited for SLC. It looks like we might actually get a decent season. Now, let me not speak too soon, but the fact that Mary's back, we have a new housewife. It looks like we're going to actually get some real drama this time. So I'm going to give it a cute look-see. But I'm actually somewhat hopeful. Now, when Abe came over to say hi to Jessel and Brynn, Brynn starts joking about how when Erin and Abe get divorced, she's available. So he starts laughing. And then Brynn continues on with the joke. You have to know when the joke is getting stale and somebody's giving you fake laughs. Because you could tell that when Brynn kept going with the joke, Abe was getting uncomfortable. Because Brynn wouldn't stop. She's like, you can swap Erin out for me. That's fine. I'm patient. I'll wait. And I was like, Brynn, you just don't know when to stop. And it was really cringy and embarrassing on your end. And again, I understand that you're just having fun, you're being playful. I'm not faulting you for that. But when you saw that Abe was kind of getting tired of the joke, just be quiet. I just want Brynn to stop trying to seek out a moment every time the camera is on her. I need her to relax and just be authentic, because the antics get tired and old after a while. And then the audience is like, okay, girl, you're like a one-trick pony. Is this all you have? And if we're being honest, why are you even thinking such a thought? Like, if we're good friends, then why are you even joking about me and my husband getting a divorce and then you can just come in and take him? Is that really what you want? And it's coming out through a joke? I'm of the mind of people tell you their true thoughts either through their actions, nonverbal cues, jokes. So I'm like, girl, what are you really trying to say? Like, I understand you think that my husband is handsome. I get it. But all that other stuff, that's really not needed. I don't know, maybe I'm reading too deep into it, but I just kind of feel like Brynn goes overboard and it gets old quickly. And then when Brynn said that she actually wants to meet Erin's dad and hit on him and how she would be Erin's stepmom, I'm just like, okay, Brynn, enough. It just feels like you really are not at ease if it's not about you. You always have to find a way to make it about you. Like, it's very exhausting. So now we see Jenna talking to Sai and Jessel, and she's pointing out the handsome men at the party. And Sai's like, would you ever date or sleep with a man again? And Jenna says, yeah, if it were the right one. So now Jenna reveals that she actually wants to get lit tonight because she broke up with her girlfriend. So Sai's like, what happened? When did this happen? We find out that they weren't on the same page. This person was very private and wasn't consistent, and there were a lot of red flags. So she's a bit upset about it. Of course, anybody would be. A breakup, no matter how amicable it is, it's still devastating. So Sai actually comforts Jenna, and she says that she really appreciates Jenna being open and honest with her, and how she wants Jenna to know that she can always lean on her. Now, I'm thinking the conversation that you had with your husband 10 minutes earlier, where you said that you're not empathetic and you don't really care to listen to other people's problems. So why do you care so much about Jenna being vulnerable with you? Like, I don't get it. I think that Sai talks out two sides of her face, and I don't really know where to go from there. But I just said, okay, girl, honestly, it feels like you really just want to know Jenna's business. That's what it seems like to me. That comment that Jessel made about how she would want Jenna to have a threesome with her and her husband, that came out of left field. I was like, girl, what are you talking about? Like, where's this coming from? You haven't slept with your husband in 2 years, but now you want to add in a third person and you two haven't even connected. I'm just like, girl, what are you talking about? And Jenna was like, thanks but no thanks, but y'all haven't gotten it in 2 years. I don't have time to train anybody. I said the shade of it all. So now it's time for everybody to give their speeches. And one thing that kind of drives me crazy at a lot of these parties, when there are so many speeches going on, let's be real. At these parties, nobody really cares. After the second or third speech, everybody has tapped out. Unless the speakers are just so engaging and so charismatic, then 9 times out of 10, everybody has zoned out and nobody cares. I thought that Erin and Abe had way too many friends up there giving speeches. Anybody would have been bored. If we're having a party, let's have a party. Like, where's the music? Have the champagne being passed around every minute. Have the past hors d'oeuvres around. And let's have a good time. But I'm not really here for all the speeches either. And people are long-winded and they don't get to the point. So that's also annoying too. But the ladies are bored. They're talking through the speeches. And now we see Erin's sister go up to them. And she's like, you know, they're doing speeches and you guys are talking or arguing. It's really rude. So Brynn's like, look, girl, don't come at us. Talk to the other people because they're talking as well. I said, I already know that Erin is about to be pissed when she finds out that they snapped at her sister. So Erin and Abe finally read their vows to each other. And now it's finally time for them to have some fun and dance. So as they're dancing, you have Sai floating around the room and she's just like, is there any food? Like, I'm hungry. I'm starving. Like, can we get some sushi? Like, I'm just so hungry right now. Like, where is the food? So we do see past hors d'oeuvres around. And I'm like, Sai, why are you acting like a petulant child? Like, all of that, where's the food? I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Like, oh my gosh, what's going on? That's just so unnecessary. At your big age, acting like a spoiled brat. So we see Sai asking the women if they want to join her at Nobu because she's hungry. So they're like, well, Erin just left to change her dress, so we're obviously not going to leave. And Erin told them beforehand, like, y'all don't leave now because I'm coming back. I'm just changing into my other dress. So Sai's like, I'm a pescatarian and all I see are piggies in a blanket. Like, what's going on? Now, Sai, I saw that Erin clapped back on Instagram and she showed all the food that she had at the party. She had way more than pigs in a blanket. So had you just stayed and waited for the servers to come around, you would have had something to eat. So we see Sai walk out, no goodbye to Erin, and I just felt like that is incredibly rude. I was taught that you should always make sure to say goodbye to the host. You don't just dip out like that. Like, that's just in such poor taste. And Sai, I think that it's really bizarre that for somebody who grew up with such a tough upbringing, I'm surprised that you wouldn't be a lot nicer. I feel like there's an arrogance, and I don't say that lightly because I'm all for people being confident and standing up for themselves, especially women and Black women and women of color. But the way you handle yourself sometimes is not in the best light. And there's a way to do everything. I feel like if I didn't know any of your backstory, if I just watched this one episode, I would assume that you grew up extremely privileged, spoiled, because the way you're acting, I'm just really shocked that you're not more down to earth. For you to storm out of the party like that, I understand that you're hungry and you're annoyed, but at least have the decency to wait for Erin before you just leave like that. So Erin comes back and she's in another dress. She looks really good. And now she's taking pictures in the photo booth with Brynn, Jenna, and Jessel. So they're like, oh, by the way, Sai left to go to Nobu because she's hungry. So Erin's like, that's just so rude of her to do. She could have at least waited till I came back to say goodbye to me. Like, who does that? The same way that she was bitching about how Jenna just up and left in the Hamptons, I'm surprised that she would do the same thing that she was just talking about. And that's where the episode ends. Again, I'm really not here for Sai's attitude. I'm not. And I'm trying my hardest to give her another chance, but I really think that her attitude is high-key insufferable. I honestly get the impression that Sai is letting her social media influence and her being on TV get to her head. Because the way she's acting, it's clear that Sai has a very overinflated ego. But y'all, that was my triple recap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoy. And you already know what to do. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.